This 8th of March 2022. I do want to start with a reflection. Have you ever paused and thought to yourself what the world would look like without a woman? For example, without a mother, without a wife, without a girlfriend, without a workmate who's a woman in the office. So today is relevant in such a way that we realize the importance of the women in our lives, and this day is specifically set aside to celebrate the women in our lives. You know, it does not only want to highlight the successes of the women in the world today, but also to bring out the different gaps that we are still seeing in our society. So a very good morning, and thank you so much for joining us in this special edition of Women's Day. We want to send our shout outs to every single woman in the world today that is staying at home, that is rushing to the market, that is waking up very early in the morning to prepare that meal for the family. We want to celebrate you today and to just remind you that you're celebrated, you're loved, and you're appreciated. So a very good morning, and thank you so much for joining us today. I am your host, Sandra Twinobdio, and on this very day we want to bring your attention to the different aspects of society that we are still seeing with women in our midst. But although we are seeing a lot of progress, we can also say that there's a lot that is still lacking. So today we want to celebrate the women, but also to create, you know, an environment where we can speak about the things that we feel should be improved. The theme this year is Break the Bias. I want to believe that you've seen this sign somewhere. You've probably done it, and we want to dive into that conversation to understand, when we say break the bias this year, what biases are still existing in our society. What are those things that we need to really work towards, and, you know, be it in economic life, social life, talk about politics. Are we seeing women, you know, competing favorably? We want to hear from the key speakers today just to understand from where they sit. Are we doing better? Are we performing better? Are the women given the platform? Are they being allowed to sit on the table, or are they just on the menu? So today, well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Remember to celebrate the women in your lives by using the hashtag, you know, Break the Bias on our social media platforms, and also Morning at NTV. We'll be right there to see the women that you're celebrating, and also, you know, send out our greetings to them and remind them that they are very special. So on our panel this morning, we are privileged. I did see a conversation on Twitter when we posted a poster. Some of the men were saying, can we at least have a man on the panel just sitting and nodding? But for those watching us this morning, we should let you know that in our midst we have some men, women. I had the Honorable Minister calling them men, women. So we want to appreciate you for showing up and seeing to it that you're supporting the women in all their endeavors. It's very exciting to see us here today in our different capacities, different positions. It's such an important day for us here today, seeing all the women that have taken up positions that would ideally not be so easy for them to take. But I want to dive into our speakers today. We are honored to be having Winfred Humza, and she is the Gender Rights Officer, Arue. Arue is also the key organizer of this event. So a big shout out to you. Thank you for making sure that you set up this day so that we celebrate each other as the women. Thank you so much, Winfred Humza, for joining us today. We are honored to have you on our panel today.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Happy to be here. Happy Women's Day to all the women out there. And I'm happy to be on the panel today talking about issues concerning the woman on this special day.
I want to move on to Honorable Minister Betty Yamongi. Thank you so much for joining us. And I think you're the minister that usually keeps a lot of time. So happy Women's Day.
Thank you.
And we thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers and listeners.
I'll now move on to a woman that we constantly see on NTV. I think she has become a sister or even a workmate because every now and again we are having her in conversations to do with human rights. And of course, today is one of those days where we think and reflect, you know, on the different violations that we are seeing in regards to women empowerment. So a very good morning and happy Women's Day, Sarah Bidete. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sandra. Good morning, viewers, and happy Women's Day to everyone.
Now, I want to stay with you, and I want you to help us set the pace of this conversation. When you look at a day like this that is set aside, 8th March, every single year, what does it mean to you? And also, we are looking at a theme, break the bias. Someone out there on social media, they would say, but we are seeing lots of women in powerful positions. What are you saying? What's with the break the bias? Don't you think you're overextending your desire to be empowered? What does it mean to you, especially today?
You know, this day is rooted in the protest of women who were working in industries in New York in 1908, who protested against hardships. And the day was first celebrated in 1909. Since then, it has been a very special day where women reflect, women celebrate each other, women analyze the journey they've walked, analyze the gaps, and try to move together to make a better world. It's a very special day. Everybody celebrates the women in their lives. Women are life givers, women are caregivers, women are in the offices, in the workplaces, women are decision makers, women are leaders. And so we have this multitasking woman that keeps calm, weathers the storm, but also makes society stay together. We knit the web around our families, around our workplaces, around the political parties we work in, around all the spaces we work in, but also make sure that humanity is at the center of our work. So a day like this means that we reflect on the journey. We are now running under the theme of an equal world, but we are saying in this equal world, there are some stereotypes that are affecting the equal world. There are some barriers to accessing an equal world, equal opportunities for everyone, for the boy and girl child, for the man and woman at the workplace, in the financial industries, in the the money economy. The women are the majority who are part of the 32% still left out of the money economy. So we have these barriers that we must deal with. In advancement of technology, we have cyberbullying that affects women more than men. So we have these barriers that we must break to create equal opportunities for male and female citizens out there, to make an inclusive world. But also in all this, we are saying women must take up the wheel, must drive up the road, and must celebrate this equal world and a better society.
Well, thank you so much for those remarks and also setting the pace of this conversation. I'll be coming back to you to ask that you speak to us on the progress that we've so far made, because it's very important for us to know, did we move from A to B and then C, or did we move from A to B and actually are going back to A? So I want to move on to Honorable Minister. You do occupy a very powerful position, and there are young women out there watching you today that think to themselves, is it even possible for me to get there? Was it easier for you to get to this position? Did you, in your experience, did you meet some biases, some stereotypes, and how did you navigate those?
First, I want to start by thanking the organizers that in this room we recognize these days the way it is, the way it's supposed to be, that we must come as women first, irrespective of our political inclination, irrespective of our religious inclination, that this is a day that we say as women, what is it that we have achieved? What is it that needs to be done? What are the systems, the institutions, the support mechanism that needs to be put in place? So for all Ugandans out there, I want to recognize the fact that we are in this room as women, and in recognition of the need that there are certain issues that will affect you as a woman, irrespective of your political party, irrespective of where you come from, your religion. If they say if you do not have good health system, you will die while giving birth. It doesn't matter whether you're a woman from which part of the world, it will affect you. Two, to recognize that for us to achieve, because we are saying we come to assess the achievements. to let the women out there know that for those who have reached where they have reached, they are not different from you out there. Because many people think when we sit on this table, you probably were a very rich person, you had a very good life all through. No. To tell you that the life of those who have achieved also underwent through struggles, and that it is okay to struggle. It is okay to be where you are, whether you are not educated, whether you are still struggling with the stereotype. The issue is that we want to say there are those who have achieved. We want to say there are those whom we need to hold their hands so that they reach where we are. That is the essence. So for some of us, it's been a long journey. We started from the village setting. I studied in a village setting, just like many of the girls out there who are studying in village setting. I went to a village O-level school. I went to A-level school in Ugulu. I passed and came to Makerere University. And those who are graduates, I see a lot of graduates. One engineer boy recently committed suicide. No, you don't need to commit suicide because you are still struggling. For some of us, I started with being a volunteer. I graduated in 1999, but 1999, I started volunteering at the Pan-African movement, where I had a Nigerian, the late Dr. Tajuddin, and we worked with people like Mayombo. But I worked as a volunteer, earning 200,000 in 1999, 2000. So for graduates out there, don't think because you are a graduate, you are not going to, it will be all silver lining. You will move and get that job that you want, and you think you're going to jump from being a graduate to being a minister. You have to struggle. I had to go and campaign. I went to campaign in 2001, and it was a bloody campaign. I made it. Even when I've been in parliament, it has been a struggle. To be where you are, you must struggle. You must make society understand that you can make a contribution. Do not think that where we are, you don't need to work hard. As a minister, sometimes I reach home with the books and correspondences in bed, and I start working in bed until Honorable Kena says, no, I'm not going to allow that you go back to your office. So many people think when you are reached where you are, you don't need to work harder, you don't need to do much. But all these policies that we make, the laws that we make, if the members of parliament do not consult you, do not read, do not do comparative analysis, then these programs we are designing to uplift women, the laws we are trying to come up with will be those that will not respond to the key issues that affect women. So I want people to know we must struggle, we must define the issues properly. There are so many issues out there that affects women, but what are the key ones you can't achieve in one day? So my role as a minister is to be a lead agency, to design policies, to design programs, and to coordinate a machinery of women, of MDAs, of civil society, to move in one direction. And we say, if this year our goal is to ensure teenage pregnancy because of the impact of COVID has to be addressed, we must coalesce as women together. And my role is to make sure we come together and move in that direction. So really, I want to congratulate the women out there. And most times we tend to only focus at women in politics, women in leadership. But the backbone of the economy are those women in agriculture. Those one every day waking up to go and dig and put food on the table, selling every little tomatoes and onions on the roadside, roasting gonja and making chapati to take their children to school. And when you hear testimonies from many of these men who are very powerful, they will tell you, either I was raised up by my mother paid my fees, my mother did this. So please, let's celebrate. And when we say Women's Day, we are not saying it is for women. We are saying it is for those who recognize that women's rights is human rights.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. I want to believe the men in here agree that they can't do life without us. You really need us, you know. You really do. I want to move on to Winfred Buhumza. I know you've worked so hard with the rural women. And what is your experience, you know, as a rural? What is your general, you know, experience with the women on the ground? Because these are people that we don't hear from all the time, but you who interact with them on a daily. What is their story?
Thank you so much, Sandra. ARUE, first I would like to say ARUE is an acronym for Action for Rural Women's Empowerment. We work with marginalized groups, especially the women and the girls in the rural communities. And as ARUE, we envision a world in which women and girls are able to realize their full civic, political, and economic potentials. So we work in central Uganda and the West Nile region, and we work with rural women. So when I speak, I'm speaking from a point of view, we are on ground, and I'll be talking about the rural woman. We are celebrating Women's Day, but you will find that most of those women that need to be celebrating this day may not even be aware of why we are celebrating the day today. Yes, we as a country, as Uganda, we have taken a number of steps. We have a number of policies that have been put in place to protect the women. The ministries have put up initiatives, programs like the UWEP, that is there to really help the women to place them in a better position. But you will agree with me that the gender biases, the gender disparity in our country still exists at a higher level, because majority of the women that are really marginalized, majority of the women that are pushed down there are in the rural communities. And this is because when we go down to the rural communities, you realize that we still have high instances of gender-based violence happening. As we celebrate the woman today, we still have high instances of gender-based violence that are happening in the communities down there, in the rural women. And this is usually as a result of poverty, which is one of the biggest challenges the rural women are really facing. And poverty is because they have not had chances to, have economic empowerment escalated to them at a certain level. We are doing work around economic empowerment, but it is like a drop in an ocean. There are so many women that are still out there in the communities that need a lot of support when it comes to issues of economic empowerment. And because of the poverty, you find that gender-based violence has keeps escalating, and COVID has not helped that a bit. And the other issue that is really down in the communities there, in the rural women, that they're really facing comes to the low levels of ownership when it comes to resources. As the minister has put it, the women are the backbone of our economy. They do a lot of agriculture. But when we look at the percentage of women in the country that own valuable resources, and for us in Uganda, the valuable resource is basically land. I don't think we have anything else we refer to as really valuable. The women having access and control to resources like land is still a bit limited, and that greatly affects and continues to affect the position of the woman in the country. And when we go to employment, the status of employment of the women is still a bit low. You find that there is a lot of job stereotyping, and the job stereotyping comes in with poor skills, low skills, and you find that the women are given jobs that are less payable, and then they're spending a lot of hours at work. You find that if you look at the jobs that most of the rural women are doing, it's petty trade and house-related roles, babysitting, taking care of homes, doing laundry, and they take a lot of hours doing that, and they get less pay. And when we look even at what COVID brought up, you see that the women were greatly affected because they were the ones, they were the majority in the informal sector. And you find that the informal sector was greatly affected, hence affecting the position of the women when it comes to issues of economy. So really, the issue of, as we celebrate Women's Day, we still have a lot to do as a country. And as CSOs and government, we really need to put our hands and heads together to see how best do we expand our services to reach the woman down there in the community.
Gender inequality for a sustainable tomorrow. Now, thank you so much, Winfred Mhumza, who's the Gender and Rights Officer Arue, and Arue is the key sponsor of this event. So a very big thank you. And for you who's joining us this very morning, the hashtag is Break the Bias. Is there something that you would like us to really break? You know, what are those different biases within society, the stereotypes that you feel we should be discussing on this very day? So do send us your comments on our social media platforms, that is NTV Uganda on Facebook, and also NTV Uganda on Twitter. We'll be right there to sample some of your comments later. But for now, I want to get the experience of Honorable Shamim Malende. So I do hope that we can get a microphone to her. She is the Kampala Woman Member of Parliament, and we want to pick your thoughts on today. What today really means to you. Are you celebrating today, or are there those biases and stereotypes that you're still facing in your position currently? Just to get an experience from you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I would also like to first extend my appreciation for this event and for the main sponsors of this event. But I also to wish all the women out there a happy Women's Day. As the Kampala District Woman Representative in Parliament, I'm pleased to be part of this platform. And basically what I can add from the views I have gathered from the women around Kampala district and even in other areas, celebrating this day, the Women's Day, means we are talking about equal opportunities. We are looking at equal opportunities for both men and women. We are looking at equal protection of rights. And we are looking at the fact that we have to break all the stereotypes, all the barriers, to break the biases so that women can have access to all the opportunities available that can be available to them for actually sustainable growth and development of our continent. So looking at Women's Day, apart from celebrating the successes, we also look at the barriers, we look at the missing gaps, and actually we come up with a way forward on how best we can beat those barriers. Most importantly, I will focus more on the informal woman out there. I have dealt with women working in the different markets, those ones vending on the streets and hawking. I have also interacted with women in the ghetto, the young girls, and some of them actually participate in even illegal trade or illegal, kind of business, the ones we call the Nekolela Jange. I have interacted with most of them, and basically to gather their views and how best they would want to be assisted by their leaders or by women in these positions, in leadership positions. And basically what I have gathered is that they are saying, yes, we are happy that as women, we have people that inspire us, fellow women in leadership. We have women working hard to change lives. We are happy that at least women are at the forefront. But again, we are wondering whether the women that are in those positions have the power to help us where we are. Yes, they speak about our issues, they come up with policies, but sometimes we feel we are left behind as the informal woman. We admire them, they inspire us, but we need them to come a little more to us, to interact more with us, and to lift our hands so that we can move with them. That's one of the observations I've got from the people. And secondly, there are also an observation from the informal woman down there that they have seen women who can afford good things, expensive things. For example, we have women that can actually get safe deliveries even from outside the country. But we have that woman who cannot even afford transportation to a maternity ward or even to go even to a clinic. So those women are asking that if there is a way as women leaders, we can come up and mobilize ourselves so that we help each other as women. As the government is doing its role of policy and programming and all that and breaking the barriers, but we as women, if it is possible for us to create a platform where we interact with these informal women, and the women who have something to offer can offer to these informal women so that we can be each other's keeper. We hold each other's hands, and then we can see every woman shining and going on top. Thank you so much. That's so far my observation in respect to the women that I represent.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable. I do realize that the aspect of economic empowerment keeps on coming up here and there. And honestly, I think women lately, there's the general urge to be empowered economically, to have their own finances, to, to fully wake up and say, I can afford this, I can do this for myself, I can go here and maybe, like you mentioned, self-delivery, and you can actually afford it yourself. So I want us to dive into that conversation. We all can agree that when more women work, economies grow. So let us dive into this conversation, and I want someone to pass the microphone to anyone that would like to speak to us on the aspect of economic empowerment on this very special day. Why is it important for us as women on this day to be discussing about economic empowerment? Of what importance is it to us as women to wake up every single day before being mothers, before being wives? Why should we have that aspect of empowerment financially, economically, also in order as well? So I want to give the microphone over to you. When you get the microphone, please do introduce yourself to us, and then you can give us your submission.
Thank you, and I thank all the panelists and colleagues around and NTV for this arrangement. My name is Goreti Namuga, the Member of Parliament from Mawogola County South, that is Zimbabwe District. When my colleagues talk about the informal woman, that is my constituency. And basically mine is agriculture and markets informal. I thank the government for the intervention of giving women a hand through empowerment. UEP has done something, but you realize that sensitization, does a common woman know what UEP is? Honorable Minister, this money gets to the district through the CDOs and other officers of government. But information is rarely given to the common person. You'll find that this money is kept in a few of those that have access to information. So as leaders, we need to ensure that we improve on sensitization. Because if you look at the informal sector, actually it takes 50% of the contribution to the GDP. However, because of lack of incubation of those businesses, we don't get, as in terms of the economy, we don't contribute as we would have done. I think that is the reason as to why we are coming in with a parish development model. As we come in with a parish development model, they are saying 30% should go to the women. Are the women at this time aware of what is getting to them as we've already launched the parish development model? What does it mean to leaders? Honorable Minister and Honorable Members of Parliament here, you are aware that the women has been scrapped off. So it is incumbent upon us to ensure that we go back to the woman before even government comes. As leaders, let us get this information early enough, get to the women, sensitize them on how to come up with businesses. Financial literacy. The women there have the urge and the ability to get organized. But who organizes them? We have government officers on ground who sit in offices. The CDOs, their work is to sensitize the community about some of those areas. But I tell you, when you get to Maogola, people cannot even write a concept. You tell them government is has money under the Luwero-Rwenzori triangle. Please give us a business concept. They cannot. So women are hardworking, they are willing to work, but I think we need to sensitize more. When it comes to women in the markets, how are we organizing them? We thank the government for this MATI program, where markets have been constructed in different towns, cities. But what are you doing to the people of Semaogola, Matete Town Council, where I have a market? I'm soon being upgraded to the level of a municipality, but I have no market. When women come to the market, it rains, I'm telling you, you cannot afford going to the market. So I think government has to roll out down. As you think about cities, think about municipalities, think about town councils. When it came to the Honorable Nabanja's money, town councils didn't get. So I think we need to roll down as leaders. It's not all about government alone. You need to empower MPs. How do you include them in the sensitization programs of government? Sensitization should not keep at the district alone. So I think if we empower a woman, you know what a woman does when she holds that little money that you give. So we thank the initiatives of NTV. This has been a good program, and I know people are listening in. But what can we do? As you host the Honorable Sarah Biret, get also my lady from Matete in the market to tell you what she's going through. It will help others to appreciate, and we have that global inclusion. Thank you so much.
To pass your submission to Honorable Minister, you did hear what she said on the aspect of parish development model, but have the women been empowered or educated enough to understand how this is going to benefit them? What is the government currently doing?
I want to thank the honorable members for those submissions.
Yes, the women's economic empowerment is one of the key resolutions that came out of the Women's Leaders Forum. And actually, it was #1 priority that women's economic empowerment should be the driving priority in this next remaining term of government. Under the parish development model, we have structured, if I start with scrapping or WEP, because most women have been coming to me and saying, why are you allowing a WEP to be scrapped and replaced by parish development model? OWEP is a 32 billion program for the whole country, for the whole 10,000 plus parishes. If you divide OWEP's money in all the parishes, it comes to 2 million per parish. When I examined the offer under parish development model of 30%, and if we are to get 30 million per year for under parish development model for women, you are talking about 130 billion shillings. So definitely, one, parish development model will have more money. Two, parish development model will address what the honorable member is saying, that the money for WEP comes up to the district level. And it is the officers to look for the groups, mobilize the groups, sensitize them, and make them apply, and later open accounts and the money is remitted. The parish development model is no longer going to be at the district level. It's going at the parish. The parish will be the lowest economic engine for delivery of services. So the major role that women should help me and government is for us to design a mechanism which can be financed for mobilizing these women to make sure that they form enterprises that are viable, because most of the women will not even have the capacity to go to be a member of a circle. Because the first, for you to benefit, first you must have an enterprise. So
if you are a member of parliament or a leader or a civil society, I would now be focusing on how do I go to mobilize where I am working as an NGO. How do I support mobilizing and creating and forming enterprises for women? How do I support them to join the circles? And how do I support them to monitor, to make sure I teach them financial literacy, how to borrow this money, how to utilize it, how to keep the books, and how to make ventures with that money and be able to refund and revolve among other women. So this cannot be done by government. Government has very few human resource. The parishes are many, and this would require members of parliament, the local leaders at the village level, at the parish level, at the sub-county level, to come together so that we use this program for purpose of enrolling women, helping them to come up and viable enterprises, because sometimes those women need guidance. For me, in my constituency, I have put my own money to now start the group enterprise formation for women, to sensitize them, to make them understand what is this parish development model, how do I benefit, how do I join a circle, how do I even become a leader in a circle, because that is where decisions are made. If we do not ensure and encourage women to be in this leadership position at that parish level, the money will come, even the 30% reserved for women will be borrowed by men. So I appreciate the need for even targeting the women in the informal sector. For us, we are saying beyond the parish development model, because parish development model is dealing with micro enterprises, the smallest of all. But we have the women who are at medium, small and medium enterprises, and those who are even at macro, who are now with industry. They now want to export. They now want even to import. They want certification. They want testing to be able to take things to Dubai, to be able to import to any country around the world. We also have women who are saying, me, I can't do agriculture, because parish development model is targeting majority of women who are in agriculture. Now we are coming with a program which is going to support women who are not benefiting under parish development model. It's a World Bank funded project which Ministry of Finance has already okayed, and it is going to be a bigger financing than Uganda Women's the UWEP money. So I want us to refocus our energy on together finding a mechanism of ensuring that women are mobilized, they are organized, and they participate inclusively in those structures that supports economic empowerment for women.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Sarah Bideti, the Executive Director of Center for Constitutional Governance. Would you say the government is doing enough when we talk about women empowerment, economic empowerment? Do you feel the government is doing enough? Do you think parish development model is the way to go?
Well, the government has some interventions in place, but I think it can do more. If you look at, for example, the demographics, women are 51% of the population, but most of the planning goes into 30%. 30% women, 30% women, yet the statistics are to the contrary. So why don't we strike a balance at that level? Say women are 51%, let's do 50-50. The theme of the world for the first 5 years has been an equal world. We have I know that in our constitution, it provides for a third in terms of affirmative action. But the provisions in the constitution are contrary to the African Union Constitutive Act, to the UN provisions on gender parity. So I would like to see that whereas the Honorable Minister has to work with the law in place and can bargain only to the extent of the Constitution, I would like to see a situation where we harmonize our Constitution to the African Union Constitutive Act of gender parity, to the AU provisions on gender, to the SDG 16 on gender parity and inclusive world. So yes, in terms of practice, she works with the law. But can we also advocate for integration and implementation of gender parity principles in this country? When will that time come? We have been behind the AU mandate for more than a decade as a country. I know that Uganda offered the leadership at the beginning of the global women empowerment wave, and we were among the leaders. But we have so far lagged behind in many aspects. I'm glad that in the current cabinet composition, we came towards attaining gender parity because we have 44% women. We are glad about that inclusion. But when are we going to walk the talk about gender parity? I would like to see the parish model running at a 50% provision for women. I would like to see our planning moving to that inclusive world, that equal world, because that's part of the bias is entrenched in our constitutional provisions and planning as a country of a third. Yet the world has since moved on. So that's one of the problems. The second problem, if you look at, for example, COVID, we are just really, all of us recovering from COVID, and I hope that it really goes away. If you look at the study done by Private Sector Foundation, 73% of businesses led by women collapsed during the lockdown, 73%. But the general effect of men and led businesses, it was 50% effect. But women was more, 23% more compared to men. So what stimulus packages, special engendered stimulus packages, are we putting in place in terms of economic empowerment? So these are some of the interventions that we really need to do, that must be deliberate, that we must work for as women leaders, and must make sure we attain them for the betterment of society.
The good thing is that the Honorable Minister is right here to take note of that and to also, commit to see it done. Yeah. So I want us to briefly take a short break, and we'll be back with more. And you're of course still watching a special edition on Women's Day. A very happy Women's Day to all the women out there. Do remember to be part of the conversation by using the hashtag Break the Bias on our social media platforms. That is NTV Uganda on Facebook and also NTV Uganda on Twitter. We'll take a short break and we'll be back shortly. Well, welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us here on Morning at NTV, a special edition for the women. We're celebrating our mothers, our wives, our girlfriends, our workmates, our children as well. So thank you so much for being here. Who are you celebrating? Do send us your comments on our social media platforms, NTV Uganda on Facebook and NTV Uganda on Twitter. And also let us know what the different biases and stereotypes that you feel as a country we should ideally be, reflecting on as we carry on with the 8th of March, a day that comes and goes. Do we just talk and leave, or do we carry on and actually implement? Do we allow the women to sit on the table, or do we just let them sit on the side and actually watch the decisions being made? Or are they just seated, waiting for the menu to be given to them, or are they on the menu? So this is the conversation that we are having today. But again, I'm seeing a lot of comments on our social media platforms talking about how we cannot do this alone, and you're complaining that the women, they are only speaking about issues, they cannot do it alone. We want to really assure you that we do have a couple of men within our midst. And right now, I do want to invite one gentleman to speak to us to show you that we actually have some men who are concerned about the women issues. Over to you. I hope you do have the microphone, but I also want you to speak about the day's theme and also women empowerment, what it means for you as a man to be seated in a room full of women. What does it mean to you?
Thank you, Sandra. My name is Charles Owekmeno. Yeah. I'm the National Coordinator of SRHR Alliance Uganda. And I should confess that at my workplace, I have about 70% women. So the men in there are actually required to be supported. But Honorable Minister, I also want to tell you that I'm proudly a woman at heart. I support women's empowerment, and I stand for it a lot. But reflecting about the theme, I think I want to first tell all the men out there. The story is with our forefather Adam. God gave him everything, he didn't feel at home. Until when God gave him a woman, that's when he felt power. That's when he felt he had a partner that he can work with. That's when he felt that the world belonged to him. And that's the power that a woman brings in our life, in our family, in our workplaces, everywhere that we live. We need to empower the women and consider them as our equal partners. That's when our society can get the best. And so that's really my message to the men out there. But speaking about the theme, we are talking about sustainable growth for our economy. And what's important about that is the critical role that a woman plays. And for all the societies that have made progress, you just have to understand one thing, that we must empower each and every one. We even feel it at home. When you have women who are empowered in the home is lifted. And when a home is lifted, that's when we can lift the country to the next level. And that's why as a nation, we have to prioritize the empowerment of women. But I just want to relate that to the conversation that have happened. We need to reflect about what are some of those things that are affecting progress towards gender equality. We have had so many economic empowerment and development models, but we are seeing progress. We're seeing, and you can see that as more women are getting into the economy, our society is actually growing. But we want to accelerate the progress, especially towards the Agenda 2030. And for me, I want us to reflect on a few things. And this goes to the Honorable Minister. We know very well that one of the things that are bringing down our women is the issues around their reproductive health. You are going to give them money under the parish development model as they have started the business unintended pregnancy. Or they are having the business violence at home. They cannot concentrate at the business. And that's why we are telling government that we must integrate the element of, for women who are of reproductive age, the element of family planning and messages around violence must be the beginning point before we give them the money. Because that's when they have that information, they will get the money and know how to keep themselves safe, but also sensitize the other women around them. And for the young women, I know we are also giving the youth money. We must ensure that this starts with elements of life skill, but also information around their sexuality before we give them the money. Because you're going to give them the money 2 weeks into the training. Someone has already lured them. They have gotten pregnant, and they're going to drop off. So we should know that one of the key things that the women need right now is to be empowered around their sexual reproductive health, and then we bring in the economic element. That's when they will, what we are talking about as sustainable economic empowerment will happen, because they will be in charge. So that's really what I wanted to add to the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And you did bring in the aspect that I'm also seeing on social media. It's coming through. And one person actually did mention, I think it's called Walter. He said the biases that women can't lead should be broken. That is one. Then he also adds that the woman must believe in herself, stand and break the bias. Women see wrong things happening and they don't speak out. Don't just go with the flow, break the bias. This is one of the comments that is coming through on our social media platforms. And why I'm choosing to read this comment is that when you brought in the aspect of violence, we did see COVID-19 accelerating the rates of violence within our communities. And I personally interacted, I've had a personal experience with a person who is in a situation of violence, but they choose not to leave. They choose not to do anything about it because they believe there's nothing better. I believe this is one of the limitations that as women we are dealing with today. And I want to once again ask Winfred on this specific issue, because I know rural women, even the modern, urban women do face it, but the rural women seem to face it a lot because they stay in marriages, they stay in positions because there's some bit of safety they find there. What is your experience on that? I want us to wrap up this conversation on women economic empowerment, but also diving into the limitations. What are those things that are limiting us as women? Staying in places where we are not treated properly, not making the right decisions? Where are the limitations currently?
Yes, Sandra, I would like to concur with Charles. One of the limitations is awareness. It is so hard to change a person who is not aware of what they're entitled to. So most of these women do not believe and are not aware that they have the same rights that men have. They feel they are way below down there, so they are not entitled, they are not equally entitled to what their men are entitled to. So that gap in terms of awareness of their personal rights, because it's important for them, if we want to really change the woman, it is important to see that she appreciates that she is a human being first, she has rights, and then let the other things follow. And when we are looking at rights, we are looking at rights from all aspects, from economic to the reproductive health rights to every right that a human being is entitled to. So if our women are able to know that they are entitled to rights, they have a right, there are laws in place that protect them, then that will be one way of trying to penetrate through. And that is why you see most women are stuck where they are, because they don't know what to do. They don't have the information. They're not aware of where to seek redress and where to go in cases where they're being violated. And that's why they get stuck where they are. So that is one of the limitations that
So we need to work
there.
on creating proper awareness.
Yes, awareness creation.
Honorable Minister, how do we work towards creating proper awareness for the women?
The good thing is my ministry is still under the government structure, charged with the responsibility of mindset change and community mobilization. With the parish development model, we have already started. On Friday, we shall be handling the members of parliament, and then we shall scale it to constituencies, from constituencies to sub-counties and to villages. So we are going to have robust community mobilization through the local government structure, through all the other machineries of elective and non-elective government human resource that are available and good enough up to village level. Women are represented. Yesterday, the National Women Council were meeting, and the National Women Council is composed of all the chairpersons of women in all the districts, cities, and we are designing a mechanism through which the structure of women will be able to mobilize women for parish development model and other program. So I will be coming to the women members of parliament who are elected on affirmative action to be more assertive, to be more involved at the district level with the structure of the Women Council and support the Women Council in the mobilization. And then the constituency members of parliament will be structuring them around mobilization in their various constituencies. So we have designed that, and beyond that we have partners. We have MDAs, the ICT, Ministry of Information Communication, have now profiled radio programs in all the languages throughout the country. And there are free radio programs that are given to government officials, will be interesting members of parliament and community leaders like religious leaders, cultural leaders. Some of them are more listened to than even the leaders at the local level. So the multifaceted approach of bringing all stakeholders to support in the mobilization will be honest to make sure that we mobilize the community, mobilize the women, make sure that they get the right information, but also we build their capacity to be able to respond and also be able to access the financing that are available.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable. I want to, you do have the microphone already, just introduce yourself to us, and later we'll be moving on to another Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much. Just picking up from what you've just raised and also the area where the Minister has just spoken about, I think the other aspect that we can be looking at besides awareness is about expanding multi-sectoral services for survivors of gender-based violence. We know that recently COVID-19 exposed us a lot. We saw escalated cases of COVID-19 and also going along with cases of gender-based violence. If I would pick on from a survey that was done by FAWE, we saw 366.5% increase in teenage pregnancy for girls of between 10 to 14 years. And I think that is a percentage that we have never seen in decades. And if you move throughout the country, you realize that we have gaps in terms of provision of multi-sectoral services for survivors of GBV, which should be cutting across different areas, for example, health or the medical, providing services to survivors in the area of clinical management of rape or clinical care for sexual assault survivors. And then the area of psychosocial support, I think, is also one area that we really need to strengthen. The worst is the justice and legal sector. We've seen so many cases, for example, in places like Amudat. I come from Aleptong, but even in my area, it's really very bad. But if you go to places like Amudat, where you don't even have courts of law existing, it means survivors have to move long distance to another neighboring district, which is Moroto, to be able to access the kind of support. So I think increasingly we need to put in a lot more efforts to look at that. Then the other aspect, for programs that the government is already focusing on, I pick on Higher Education Students Financing Board, which was created by an act of parliament in 2014 and is providing sponsorship and loans to students. We saw that for the last 7 years, we have reached a total of 11,187 beneficiaries. But out of these, 7,862 are males and only 3,325 are females. I think these are areas where we don't get it right. These are areas where we leave the women behind or we leave the girls behind. I know for primary we've improved on enrollment rates, but for secondary we are still doing very badly. And also in terms of completion rates, even for primary, still very low for the girls. So I think there are areas that as government, as CSOs, we need to put a lot more emphasis on. Thank you.
I want to believe you didn't introduce yourself to us, or did you? Just to get to know who you are.
My name is Dr. Sachen, the District Woman Member of Parliament, Aleptong. Thank you.
Anyone that would like to speak about empowerment and the limitations, I will give the gentleman at the back for those still asking if we don't have men in our audience.
Okay, thank you very much, Margaret. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. My name is Ryan Madanda, and I work as Senior Gender Technical Advisor at International. So maybe the men out there will be happy to know that he's a gender practitioner for over 25 years.
Wow.
Now, I just wanted to make two comments. One is that I think the debate in the House has, shown what I identify with. That we've made a lot of progress. We've made a lot of progress in politics, in education, etc., but we still have gaps, serious gaps. And one of the areas that we work on, I think, similar to what has been raised in the House at Care International, is the issue of poverty, for example, income, women economic empowerment. We have all women who have made progress, but we still have the fact that the majority of the poor, if you disaggregate by gender, you'll still find that women are overrepresented in that category. And some studies show, and I'm glad the ministry now, is focusing on women economic empowerment seriously, that if we do not take serious steps, it will take us over 8 decades to close the gap. So it's good that the ministry is working on that. But one other thing I wanted to mention in relation to the parish model, which is really good, that government is thinking of moving lower, nearer to where action should be. But also, from a gender perspective, I would say that, you know, money is when money is earned, it goes into the pocket. It does not stop at the parish level. So we need mechanisms to ensure that even we move below the household to see that money actually ends up in the hands of the people we are targeting, the 30% women. Because the mere fact that there are resources at the parish level is good, but there is need for effort to move beyond that, because there are gender stereotypes, there are gender biases that can even impact the distribution of resources at the household. And that's why, for example, inheritance is still male bias. Is also another area of bias. And this needs, to make sure that we tweak this excellent model to achieve that result. I thank you very much.
I'd like us to speak about the culture norms that sort of are still limiting women. I think we should have someone to speak to us. We're seeing in some regions, maybe in Karamoja, where aspects of early marriages are still limiting women from achieving their full potential. Would like to hear someone speak on that passionately so that we see, or at least have a clear picture on what is happening on ground. Anyone who's able to speak to us on that? Yes, over to you.
Thank you very much. My name is Doreen Ayebare, and I am a technical coordinator for Women's Protection and Empowerment at the International Rescue Committee, IRC. Speaking about the social norms, we are here speaking about women's empowerment. We're speaking about economic empowerment, but we're forgetting in what culture are we placing these interventions? What is it that is binding the women where they are right now? You know, when you come from there, we're quick to bring these women to the spaces, but we understand that culture has put us in a space of care. Are we creating a triple burden? You know, so as a woman, you come into the world, the ground is already defined. You already come with some privileges taken away from you. And we are socialized to live like that. We are not socialized to make money. We are socialized to care. We are not socialized to be leaders. We are socialized to be wives. And we take pride in it anyway. But how do we perceive that? How does that give us space in society? So as we go into this, the social norms, the cultural beliefs that we have grown up with are the ones that define where we go in society. So as we look into women's empowerment, we must see what are the negative social cultural norms that are holding women back as we provide the opportunities. You know, even the GBV that we speak about, do we recognize it as GBV, or we say that's life? We say that's what it's supposed to be. So I think for us as policymakers, we have to look into, we talk about...
I think recently I was interacting with a lady who openly told me that when a man doesn't beat you, they do not love you. I do not know if any other person has had that experience, but there are women out there that think that is a way, you know, of a man showing love to them. And I think it's a very sad reality.
I hope as actors we are working to address that, and yes, we hear it because you think it's a measure of love for someone to be hard on you, for someone to be jealous. So for me, as we come to this space as actors, it's to check that when we bring the empowerment programs, we see what are the factors that are binding women where they are, especially issues of burden of care. You get into the space as a leader, but you must look after children, you must cook, you must care for your children and family. So having a business does not take away that. And that comes to our interventions. How are we doing male engagement? How are we promoting positive gender relations so that spouses are supportive, so that communities are supportive, and you're not seen as someone who is spending a lot of time at work and not attending to your family, who is focusing on business. Yet when a man does it, it's all right. So I think we have, us who have seen, we have a responsibility to empower. So as we design programming, let's focus on gender relations, supportive relations, but also break the bias among the women. Because you go to a newspaper to look for a position, you're looking for officer. The moment you see director, you're like, this is not for me. Yeah? How do we empower the young girls to look out for positions that take them to the next level, so that you go to choose a profession, secretary, nurse, you know, yet the men will always push themselves to another level. So we have gotten the opportunity, and we have a responsibility to fix the crown for the girls and the other women, to find the potential within themselves and take away the bias from themselves and know that they can reach the greater heights, because we all have the potential, but society has made us feel like maybe we can't. So let's deal with ourselves, and as we empower women, let's provide them an opportunity where they have support for care so that they can grow in other spaces. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doreen. And you've painted for us a picture of, we're talking about women empowerment, but in what environment are we operating in? And I just want to get the Honorable's view on that. First of all, you're a wife. You are in a big position. We just want to touch in a little bit in your personal life. You know, you really did say that sometimes you're at home working and your husband says, you know what, go back to the office. How then do you navigate, you know, your role as a wife, as a mother, and then as a leader? How do you balance that out?
Yes, one, I need women out there to know that the most important aspect is to balance that, because still, as women in a family, we need to bring, we give birth to these children, and in a family, we are the backbone of that family. And we should bring bring up the children, make the home livable, and teach them how to balance family. In my context, of course, we have maids as people who help us at home, but in most circumstances where work is required, I will do the work.
For example, do you make dinner? Do you get to the kitchen?
I love cooking.
Yes.
And if possible, I want to eat what I have cooked. Because what I have cooked will not be like the person who has cooked what I want to eat. That's for sure. So in many circumstances, by the way I cook, and my children, every Sunday, they know if mommy is around on Sunday, even the housemaids will not cook. They will, when they know I am there on a Sunday, they will mop, they will clean, they will do everything. They will cut the onions and the tomatoes and leave it there.
Anyway, so
yes, I cook, and also
so
deliberately. Yes, deliberately. It's important also to give time to our children, to the husband. For those with husband, you need to make them feel that with the empowerment, you are not displacing him.
True.
As a partner in the house.
Let us hear from Sarah Vidite. You know, the conversation I've also been involved in on social media is that women are getting so empowered that they're forgetting their roles at home. And that is, you know, changing the status quo. What are your thoughts on that? And how do we see to it that women are economically empowered, but they're also able to do their role as wives, as mothers, as, you know, as parents as well?
Yeah, I think we need to debate that in the context of the gender changing roles. For example, I'm a mother of only sons, and I make sure they know the basics. They can fix a meal for themselves. In developed countries, everybody cooks. If they go out of Uganda to study, everybody fixes a meal for themselves. People don't have the luxury of house helpers like we do here. So we need to move towards the gender changing roles. I know that it's very difficult, but it's a conversation we must have. In many families, men are able to cook. Once in a while, like Women's Day, they say, please stay in your bed. Yes. And true. They go, you know, they serve you breakfast in bed, and men are great cooks. So we need to have a shift. We need to have a balance. It's not only women that should have a balance. Even men should have a balance.
Understand that
yes, because we are talking of an equal world. And there is a common saying that what a man can do, a woman can do. And what a woman can do, a man can do. So we need to have this difficult conversation. We need to bring up our children in this changed context. And we need also to make sure we move in a changed context with our partners at work, at home, and in a general environment. This is the inclusive world that we dream of. This is the inclusive world that is envisioned under the Sustainable Development Goals. It's not the other way that women, in addition to their traditional patriarchal roles, have now an additional burden of work. If we can split the bills at home, if I can pay fees at home, what is so hard about you once in a while fixing for me breakfast? Because what are these traditional roles of men in an equal world? Before, men were known as, I know they still do a large bit of providing, but women are also putting man on table. So how do we balance out to that? The time that you take to bring that money that you put on table, the time that we are even having a conversation of paid up home care work. If a woman is a housewife, there is a conversation that if you have money, provide for her a salary. So how do we break these barriers? How do we break the bias? This is the whole essence of this year's theme.
Maybe to add a little bit is that when those roles become commercial, the men run to those roles. If you go to big hotels, you will find they only change the name to be modern. When we are saying we are cook, they are chefs. So when we are eating food here, you will say it's a chef who has made. Most of them are men. You go to all these countries around, when it is something which is having money, the men grab the opportunity without questioning it. And they will get money out of it. When at home it is a what? A women's role. So we need to also to contextualize that there is no specific role that is really for a woman. It is the attitude and the socialization process that makes them feel that should be a women's role.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Over to you, Winfred. What are your thoughts?
Just to add something, you talked about people thinking that women are too emancipated, they are running over the men. It is not that we want to be men. No. We want to remain women. But what we are asking for and what we are calling for is a leveled ground. Can we have the same opportunities? Can we have the same opportunities to go and also be able to complete primary school? Because you realize that in most of primary education, somebody shared. You realize in P1 the peoples are 200 something. And when you come to P7, there are 25 peoples who are going to complete P7. And out of the 25, there are only 3 girls. So can we have a leveled ground and try to bridge the gap that is failing the girls to be able to complete from P1 to P7, let them continue being 100, and we see that they are completing primary school at the same level they started primary school. Can we have a leveled ground in terms of employment? Can we have a leveled ground in terms of access to financial services and institutions? Can we also have a leveled ground when it comes to ownership of these assets that propel someone's status in the community? So we don't want to be men. We want to remain women, but women with the same opportunities that the men, that the boys are also having in their communities. Let the girl go to school as the boy goes to school. Why would you tell a girl to remain home because there's a sick child or the mom is sick? Why can't the boy remain at home and let the girl go to school? Or why can't both of them go to school and we get someone to help the parent? So what we are calling for is just a leveled ground, equal opportunities, and we will be able to break the biases that are limiting the girl child and the women from accessing what they're entitled to.
So we're going to prosper, and we'll try as much as possible to still be their wives, you know, be there for them.
That's why we want to still remain to be women. We don't want to be men.
We are not trying to compete with the men.
No.
So Charles, you know, please, everybody here, the men in our midst, just know we are not trying to compete with you. We are simply trying to, you know, to work in a fair ground, you know, so that we prosper and also be able to support you better. Honorable Shamim, I do believe you have something to say.
Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity once again. Basically, I have a few concerns that I'd like the Honorable Minister to take note of, and all the panelists and fellow women. My first concern is that as we celebrate this International Women's Day, we know there is a war in Ukraine, and there are women who are trapped there, Ugandan women and actually women from other countries. So as the ministry, what steps have been taken to see that we try and evacuate our Ugandans in Ukraine, or most particularly the women who are there? And secondly, as we celebrate this day, we have some women who are still stuck in prison. Others just disappeared, and investigations are still underway. As the ministry and as women activists, what steps are we putting in place to see that we can come together and try to advocate for these women who are in jail and maybe have them represented so that they can get justice? And just to be particular on that, recently we had a cleanup of the city, and we have many women and girls who are trading on the streets as hawkers, and most of them are in there because they were trading from the wrong place. So for purposes of economic empowerment, is there any intervention that the ministry can do to help out these women so that they can come back? And maybe lastly, it's about the labor exploitation, which has impacted so much on our women who always go abroad to look for, you know, ways of survival. What measures have been put in place, and how best can we help them as women leaders so that we can all move at the same pace? Thank you so much.
Very good question. Over to you, the lady at the back. I want us to wrap up this conversation on women empowerment, and we speak about women rights as well, right to health and the like, and we'll bring in that aspect that you just brought in, the right to, you know, work and all the like. So let us quickly sum up this.
Thank you. My name is Esther Chozira. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of NODIPU. NODIP is the National Union of Disabled Persons of Uganda. As we talk about women and as we celebrate today, I want us to think about this woman with disability, because many times as we are speaking about women, we forget that there is the intersection between women and women with disabilities. It's one thing to be a woman, but it's another to have a disability. And that means that when we are talking about biases, here we are talking about double biases that we need to deal with. And as we talk about empowerment, we need to think about a woman with disability in the rural community who needs the empowerment. I'll start with awareness raising that we talked about, for instance, with a parish model. How many women with disabilities are being targeted under the awareness campaigns? We know disability is not uniform. There are those that don't see, like myself. There are those that don't hear, and they will need specialized kind of awareness messages. There are those that even cannot move to reach to the venue or the community center where the information is being disseminated. How are we thinking about those? As we talk about the economic empowerment, the employment, are we thinking about this special woman who wants to work, who is the breadwinner at home? She has children to take care of. You all know that very few women with disabilities are in serious marriages. Many men come and take advantage of them. Maybe they don't take advantage, we can say. They come and want to have children with them. But the challenge is that the responsibilities are left to them. And at the end of the day, they must make sure that these children that are produced grow. It could be common to all women, but when it comes to a woman with disability who is not even having any source of income, it becomes very challenging. Yet many have not got the opportunity to go to school so that they are able to attend some kind of education. So, Honorable Minister, as we talk about data and statistics, let's be mindful to take note of the data pertaining to women with disabilities. If we are saying we are reaching out to 30% of the women, let's be interested to know how many of these women in the 30% are women with disabilities. What disabilities do they have? What interventions can we take? Because the interventions may not be uniform. And this will help us to see that we are reducing the biases and also ensuring that all women are getting empowered. As we talk about awareness raising, let's be mindful to take note of the different messages that can reach out to the very rural disabled woman who is not able to benefit from the mainstream. So for now, that's my input. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. Allow me to invite Becky Chigozi, who is also a person living with disability. We just want to hear your story on women empowerment, but also you'll be taking us right away into the rights of women as well as we celebrate this day. So give us your personal experience as a woman and what gaps you would wish to see improved as we celebrate this day.
Thank you very much. My name is Becky Chigozi. I'm an events manager. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I happened to get an accident. I was not born lame. So I got an accident and I lost my right leg. But living with a disability is not easy. But I chose to be positive. First, the challenges that we go through as ladies with disabilities, as the friend has said, discrimination. Like, I have a degree, but when you go to look for, you look for work, like you apply, like you're 100 women or girls, so they will first look at you, eh? Now, Becky has a disability. What can she offer? They don't look at what you can offer, but they look at your disability. So it happened, I got an accident when I just finished campus. So I tried to look for jobs. I even tried Nodipo. I tried everywhere. I wrote in applications. I did everything because I was just a fresh graduate from Makerere. But in the end, I did not get a job. So I sat down. I was like, what am I going to do? By then, I was still a young girl. What am I going to do? I didn't want to sit home. Like, I didn't want to be a burden to my parents, to my society, to what I'd even learned from campus. I didn't want to be a burden to anyone. So, I'm a born-again Christian. So I went to my pastor's wife. She was dealing with decorations. So I told her, I want to begin work. She was like, how are you going to do it? Becky, you're lame now. You can't do anything. You have to accept that you're lame. No one is going to support you, Becky. You just have to sit down and wait for people to give you. So I said, no, I cannot sit down. I remember I had my little savings. I went to Chiembe. I don't know if you know Chiembe. So I went to Chiembe, and there was this guy. He looked at me and said, Becky, you want to parent, but you're lame. You have one leg. I told him, we used to call him Uncle David, I'm going to pay 4 months, and I'm going to work. I don't have any clients, but I know I'm going to work. So I went, I paid my rent. I began work. I didn't know how to pick a border, but I got one border guy. Life became, by the way, people with disabilities, we are very expensive. Life became very expensive. Life is very expensive. Like you cannot walk from here, for example, from here up to, if you don't have any disability, it is a walkable distance. If you don't have a car, it's walkable. But life became expensive. You have to have money on you. If you don't have money, you have to have support. And this person who is supporting you, you also have to support him. So I encourage every woman with a disability to be empowered. Please support women with disability. There are women out there, they have degrees, but they are living in this, like they don't believe in themselves. Like me, they say, now I'm lame, who will take me on? Who will guide me? So as a theme, breaking the bias, I chose to be positive. Some people find me at my sites when I'm working, and you cannot tell that I'm lame because I chose to be positive. I let the past behind me, and I'm looking what is forward. People have supported me. I am still going on despite of my disability. You cannot underlook me. You cannot. You cannot. You can't. So I encourage the government to support women with disabilities. We are able. We can work. We can offer services. There are some of us who chose to leave the past behind. And we thank God He has given us life. We have that. There are women who are positive. But the most important thing that we get is, as my colleague said, men take advantage of disabled women. You find that, for example, I happened to campaign. That was in when were the campaigns? So they said, you're more educated. Like I went to town, there are men with disabilities who live in town. Like they don't support us who are educated. They said, Rebecca, you're more educated. Like you will not take us, they want to take us. You find that most of those women who work in the markets have been impregnated by those men. So when I came in, I told women, that is not the way to go. Even women with disability, we can stand, we can work. I have even tried to come up with, in my small world, to support some women.
Your story is extremely interesting, but I know we have not so much time, so I just want you to conclude in just a few seconds.
As my conclusion, Honorable Minister, we would like you to have some time. If you can invite us, we come to your place. If you can, if you can pass through me, I can organize women. And we come because we have a lot to share with you. We have a lot of challenges, but we have no one to help us. We have nowhere to run to. But given this opportunity, some of us were given this opportunity to come and attend. Maybe through you, some women can achieve what they want. Maybe we can have a higher voice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that story. A round of applause for Becky. Thank you so much for giving us a perspective of what it means as a woman to be living with a disability in a world that is not equal, that is not fair. Honorable Minister, we're almost coming to the end of this show, and there are a number of issues that we haven't spoken about, but I want you to address what she just said in just a few minutes. How do we support women living with disability to operate in a world that is not fair, but to really conquer the challenges that they go through?
I think the major
as a government,
yes, as government, we have a disability grant, and this disability grant, which will be on top of the parish development model, has been going on, where persons with disability choose what they want to do, those between who are in a group of 5 to 30, they are able to requisition. I would interest her we shall exchange phone contacts, and I will give her the contact of my officer, who will be able to get those women that you are supporting around Kampala, so that we are able to. But this is a national program. It is in all the districts, but it is demand driven. But again, I think the most important aspect which we need to pick and go with is the issue of information. Giving people information about such a grant. It is transforming the lives of many people. Because like you said, most persons with disability actually only want capital to push them. And that's why we looked at capital, but also we have other programs supporting them with the disabled assistant devices for walking, devices, all of those, we have partners who support us. So I will get much more in touch, but also I will make my officers start more scaling up the awareness creation so that people know the programs.
All right, let us hear from Sarah Bidete in just a few seconds. You know, as women, we can do so much, so we can even speak in a few seconds and bring out the point. As we close this conversation, what are your parting shots? You know, we're supposed to talk about, you know, governance and all the like, but because of time we haven't. But would like you to give us your parting shots, things to reflect on as we continue to celebrate today.
Yeah, I think the key message for me is that wherever we are, in the spaces we work in or we live in, let's create an opportunity for women. Let's work towards an equal world. And I'm not saying we should leave out the men, because an equal world doesn't mean that the male child is excluded. But we are saying create space for women, create opportunities for women, remove the barriers, remove the discrimination. And the discrimination is you know, ranges from stereotypes. A woman cannot do this job. A woman, like I am a woman in a governance organization. Some of the things maybe she's like a man. So the bias ranges from different things. And I know that also the women politicians at times at the campaign trail, some of them, they say, that one is too intelligent, that one is too aggressive. She's a man.
Sorry, in a few seconds.
Yes, so let's have an equal world. Small actions mean a lot in changing the mindset, changing the society we live in, so that we have a better future for everyone.
Thank you so much. Now, Winfred Muhomza, your parting shots.
In just a few words, I would like to appreciate the laws that we have in place and the policies, but my call would be, can we have these policies being implemented? And let us not leave them in the books or in the booklets where they are. Can we have them implemented? Because we have very good policies that are for the women. So can we have this implemented? Can we have all the stakeholders that are entitled to see that this is implemented, that different policies are implemented, be able to up their capacities in terms of human resource and knowledge capacities to see that the policies are put in place. Maybe as I conclude, I would like to say that gender equality is smart economics. So if we continue empowering the women, we will have a better economy and a better community for everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. You're the last to give us your very parting shots, again, in a few seconds. And women, gentlemen, and the women, we do have a cake. The men have been told that you, just for today, you're allowed to tap in just a little bit. So stick around and we'll be, you know, celebrating more today. Just your
my parting shot is that as women, let us join hands together, because this gender equality cannot be achieved when we are not together having a common position, fighting for the common cause, defining the common agenda, moving in the common direction, and to involve men in this endeavor. So let us join hands together, define the agenda, have a common stand, a common position, irrespective of our differences, and move together with the men. And as you look at what has happened in Uganda over the last years, the person who has been in leadership in Uganda is a man, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. By appointing all these women in position where I am, has changed a lot of people, and the mindset has changed. And we have places where women who are in big positions have actually not empowered fellow women. So let us look at how we are able to move forward and have those who support the women cause to move together with us.
Thank you so much, ladies, for being on our panel today. We celebrate you and happy Women's Day. And for all of you that have joined us, let us keep this conversation online. We can't go the whole day, but let us keep this conversation online. And as we conclude, I want to conclude with a quote from Pauline Bayer that says that women are increasingly having a seat at the table. All of us have gotten a seat at the table. So it is okay to bring one. And if we don't get a seat, it is okay to create our own table. This is by Pauline Bayer. And this quote can be summed up with Becky's story. Create your own narrative, create your story, and sooner or later, people will support you as well. Thank you so much for being part of us. Let us continue to break biases. Let us continue to advocate for gender equality. Let us continue to create opportunities for fellow women once you have an opportunity. And most importantly, we ask the men to just stick by us and support us as much as possible, because we want to stay women, but operating in a fair world. Thank you as well for joining us. I've been your host, Sandra Twinobdio. But for now, I want to invite the Honorable Minister. I want to invite Becky for cake cutting. I want to invite Sarah Virete. I want to invite Winfred Muhumza. Let us just cut our cake and let us show the world that we are running this world and we are, you know, we are conquering.
We're supposed to carry this thing with us.
Yeah. So please come with me. Yes, yes, of course. What do I say? Counting? Should I count? Yes. 3, 2, 1. Happy Women's Day!
Yes.
Diana, better you're going to do the cutting because... So thank you so much, ladies. We celebrate you today.